Welcome back to Life Gave Us Material. I'm Sabrina.
I'm Taylor.
And today we're going to be talking about something that we are working on in our lives, about changing up our routines and lifestyle choices to help us live healthier, happier lives.
I'm so excited about this. We actually just recently, well, I think this has been a long time coming. We've kind of dabbled with the thought of it. But then last night, especially yesterday I had my medical appointment and I came home just feeling really motivated to make some shifts and some changes. And the sweet thing was you were feeling the same thing. And it was kind of one of those, you don't want to say deja vu moments, but it's like you were having the exact thoughts and I came into Polo and I was sharing my thoughts and they happened to align exactly with what you were thinking and wanting to do. And so we were like, you know what? Let's go ahead and let's take this leap of faith and also take along our podcast listeners on this journey, if you will. And so we're really excited about it. We're going to be making some shifts to our routines, as she had mentioned. And these shifts are specifically going to be to nurture our nervous systems. Because as we've again mentioned in previous podcasts, we've went through a bit of trauma and a lot of really stressful things within the past 3 to 4 years, or even probably past that, but specifically within the last 3 years, things have been really hard, and our bodies are paying the price for that.
Yeah,
they really are. This year specifically, I think for myself, things have reached a head, and I've been dealing with a myriad of health issues, and it all tracks back to stress and anxiety and trauma. And I know for yourself, and we've talked about in a past episode how you and I will have similar symptoms. And so we've talked about it extensively, and we've come to that point of just stress. And it is a silent killer. And it is also, it just wreaks havoc in a way that is very, very unpleasant, and it disrupts routines and relationships. And we're tired of that.
Yeah.
So we want to make some gentle changes, and they're also almost extensive changes to how we live our lives. But we also want to do it in such a way that it's enjoyable. And again, nurturing to the nervous system.
Yeah, and that it becomes like a natural rhythm instead of like a forced thing, and that we're comfortable with, that it just becomes a new comfortable way of living.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I really mentioned throughout our episodes like my backgrounds.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about how I'm a massage therapist, but I'm also a registered nurse with a BSN and a health coach. And so I think the best way for me to use those things is to coach myself and help coach my best friend. And because I coach my clients. And so coaching each other is going to be really fun, because we're going to be able to live better lives and encourage you and give you ideas on how to coach yourself.
I'm so excited for this. And also, we should mention this is going to be a lengthier episode. So, but an enjoyable one. Hopefully, we're really excited to share. So press the pause button if you want to. Go grab yourself a favorite beverage and then just kick back, listen, take some notes if you want to, if there's anything that you're resonating with and feel like would help your daily routines as well. And let's just begin this nervous system nourishing journey together, shall we? What have you got in your cup, Sabrina? Got anything good?
I have water with electrolytes.
You know what? That is some good stuff.
Yeah.
What kind of electrolytes do you have? What are your favorite electrolytes? Do you have any favorites?
Right now, I am enjoying the brand Instant Hydration electrolytes. I know that you had mentioned that to me. I was using Element, which I still do use Element. I kind of mix it up because sometimes I get tired of the one and I use the other. But the flavor, I think the one I'm doing this morning is raspberry, and it's good.
I know I've used a myriad of electrolytes throughout the years, and instant hydration has been my favorite. And I've actually noticed, and I'm incorporating it into my routine specifically, because I've noticed a difference within my body and how it responds when I've had these specific electrolytes. I know, and this video is not sponsored, by the way. We'd love it if it was, but we're just a little piddly podcast. So, instant hydration, if you see this, we're huge fans. But I love that it hydrates the system on a cellular level. They're not just using table salt. They're using I think it's like a French sea salt. And
it doesn't taste as salty as other brands.
It's delicious. I have it in my cup.
Yeah.
I have the lemon lime one.
Like, it helps hydrate me better when I have electrolytes in my water instead of it just flushing out and I have to use the bathroom more often. This one, I feel like my body is actually then able to use the hydratings, the water.
I've noticed a difference too in like how my heart rate seems to just, I seem to enter that rest and digest state a little bit better when I'm hydrating properly. Versus, of course, being in that dehydrated state or where it's just flushing through. I also have a history of hyponatremia. And so electrolyte imbalances, like for me, it easily happens. Actually way too easily. I'm somebody that tends to overhydrate. And so it's important that I have the electrolytes in there. I've actually landed in the ER for it. And I don't recommend that.
No.
Don't overconsume liquid.
A good rule of thumb that I like to follow is get however your weight is in, divide your weight in half and get that in ounces. I had to think about how to say that. Yeah,
I knew where you were going with it. But
divide your weight in ounces and aim to drink that in water or fluids.
And before any of the comments go, oh, she's chugging so much water. Do you have diabetes? Do you need to go get tested? No, it is more of a thing like I'm just very conscious of, and I want to be well hydrated, and then I overdo it.
Yeah.
So moving into how we're shifting and changing our routines. I'm kind of looking because we have some questions that we can kind of discuss.
Yeah, the first thing I know that we have done, I still have to, I have a protocol that I have already written out that I use for my clients, but I'm going to fine tune it a little bit to my specific needs. But I know you've already done this yesterday, is make a list of the changes we want to make. Like our morning routine, afternoon, you have it there. Our evening routine, that way, and print it off. That way we can look back at it, throughout the day and kind of check in and see where we're at and kind of give a structure instead of us just going off by memory. Feel like, oh yeah, that's what I wanted to do this evening. Instead of just being like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do this evening.
And Canva. I love using Canva, and I'm sure there are other platforms that you can use to create a routine for yourself. I love Canva because there's so many fun options that you can kind of tailor to whatever style you want to make your routine more fun. I think if you have something that's eye-catching and appealing, it also helps. Because if I'm walking past my refrigerator and I see something that catches my eye, even though I know it's there, if I enjoy looking at it, I'm more bound to do so.
So, how do you feel about this? Like, once we fine tune our routines and our templates and everything, how do you feel about sharing those?
I would love to do that. Yeah.
The people can kind of have like, because mine's going to be a little different than yours, the structure and everything, probably, and things that we do is just probably going to be different somewhat, but they can see like the difference and get ideas on how to create their own daily routine.
Yeah, I would love to do that. Yeah. I think creating a
routine. Sorry. I was just going to say that if it's not in the description of this video, we will later, because we're still in the process of it all. So it may be in a future video's description, but we will make that known to where it is.
Yes, absolutely. I am so excited about this. I know for myself in the past, some people thrive off of routines. I am somebody that thrives off of a routine. I know that you're somebody that tends to thrive off of a routine. And when I have certain things in place, it really does help me. Mm-hmm. But especially within the past recent years of stress and what have you, I don't want my routine to just feel like a schedule. I want for it to be enjoyable so that I look forward to my routine. And it's not just something I'm checking off the to-do list and I'm getting anxious if I haven't completed it for the day.
Yeah. So it needs to become like a natural rhythm, a flow.
Yeah.
That you just kind of becomes the new normal.
Yeah. I like that rhythm and flow. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. And I know yesterday I was talking to you about it. I'm like, I want to, for lack of better words, like romanticize my routine and just making it so enjoyable to where I, again, truly look forward to it. Instead of, it's just like, I have to, turn my phone off 2 hours before bed. I have to drink that tea again. I want to make it something where I look forward to it.
So with that being said, our listeners, like maybe they're wondering what are signs that we need to, mix up our daily routine? What are some subtle signs that our daily routine is dysregulating us?
Well, your body can show absolute physical signs. We're proof of that. I think something simple that both you and I go through where we can tell, oh man, we're really stressed. We need to back it up. Our eyes. I don't know if you've ever noticed this before, and I'm speaking to our listeners when I pose this question, where your eye will involuntarily twitch and it almost feel like your eyelid's being dragged down. That's actually a nervous system response. And that is something that I didn't necessarily go through a whole lot of my life, but I know, again, specifically within the past 3 years and very much this year, my eyelid will twitch to the point where my eyelid drags down to almost a close. And I know I might have some family watching this episode and they're like, oh, Taylor, Bell's palsy. Because that's a whole nother story for a whole nother episode. I did have Bell's palsy. But I do know the difference between the two. And I can tell it's absolutely a nervous system response. And I know you also go through it. And we've been in high stress situations and that's happening. And we're like, okay, our body's trying to tell us something.
Yeah, because I remember I was having my eye twitching for weeks. And I'm just like, maybe it's an electrolyte imbalance. Maybe I need to hydrate more. So I was doing all these things. And then I started getting actually my husband came home and the twitching kind of went away. And so then I made the connection of like stress causing the eye twitching and not so much that there's an electrolyte imbalance. Like some people may be if they have a lot more like muscle twitching, there might be something else going on like with electrolyte imbalance or something like or dehydration. But oftentimes, like you said, it's the nervous system being dysregulated and being like, help, but you need to do something here.
Absolutely. I know another thing is the gut brain axis is absolutely a thing. And I've noticed, again, within the past 3 years, I have started having immense gut issues to the point where I've had gut attacks, if you will. And it has dropped me like an absolute rock. And my digestive system has been all messed up. And in those moments, like when it initially happened, I thought it was my gallbladder. And we went in and we checked my gallbladder and everything was good. And it turns out it's again that nervous system response.
Stress. Because I would notice a pattern.
I was just going to say.
Good, and then you would pull me about situation, and I'm like, and then you were pulling me about your gut issues, and I was like, I found the issue. We got to remove this issue.
And you know, the funny thing was, I remember you were so gentle about it. Like, you didn't necessarily just tell me outright. And then one day I had like this little light bulb moment where I came to you and I'm like, because I was going through earlier this year, a highly stressful situation. And I came to you and I was like, Sabrina, I think that this situation is causing my gut attacks. Because things had gotten good with that situation. Like, it had calmed down with that situation. And then it got inflamed again. And then so did my gut. And I was like, Sabrina, I think there's a pattern here. And you're like, no, duh.
Because I think what it is because we're so involved in each other's life that I automatically, without even like consciously thinking about it, I look for patterns. Because as a health coach, I look for patterns in clients' life to help them determine what is helping them and what's not helping them to then make the changes. And so my brain automatically goes to that, even though I'm not your health coach specifically, you know.
But I look and you have a front row seat to my life. We have a front row seat to each other's lives. Yeah. And truly we do. I would say over half the day, we know what's going on in each other's lives. And like we're videoing one another and we know, like, it's our voices are known to our spouses because we are so like constantly talking all of the time. It's just, it's a normal background noise for Taylor's voice to be heard or for Sabrina's voice to be heard. It's just normal and natural. And it's beautiful because, again, I think that's something that has really nurtured our nervous systems, is having a best friend in each other. It has been so pivotal in such a positive way. And I'm so grateful.
Yeah.
So yeah, gut, there can be other physical signs, you know, like eye twitching, numbness. I've had really weird numbness that has happened in different areas of my body, and
shooting pains, pulling pains, needling.
Yeah, pins and needles.
Bugs crawling on your skin.
We thought is this like a stroke? Like, what is this? And we got all nervous. It turned out it was a stress response.
Yeah, absolutely.
Disrupted sleep.
Yes. I remember, for me, I feel like the most stress that I've ever experienced in my life, that my body like physically felt it and I had the symptoms, was when I was in nursing school. Mm-hmm. Now, I didn't really feel that stressed, I would say, as some people would be like, I'm so stressed. I didn't like really feel it, but my body felt it. And I was having all these weird symptoms. Like, for instance, one of the weirdest ones was it felt like bugs were coming out of my hand. It's the most disgusting, terrible feeling. And I can remember that I was riding.
It's that creepy crawly sensation.
Yeah, but literally bugs were coming out of my hands. And I remember Jonathan was driving and I was telling him, can you please just hold my hand? Because as long as he was holding my hand, that feeling just kind of subsided a little bit and it was more bearable. And I think too, that physical touch and connection with a loved one helps with that too. But that was just really bizarre and terrible. And then, you know, like shooting pains, like you said, numbness, nightmares, extreme nightmares. The one time I was laying in bed and I was talking to Jonathan on the phone and literally was telling him that I felt like a rod was coming from the ceiling and going through me. It was a really bad time, like in so many ways. So, like, when they say nursing school is stressful, they ain't kidding. It wasn't until I finished nursing school did I really realize everything I was experiencing wasn't me going crazy.
It was
I
stress.
thought I was losing it.
Yeah.
It was my body under so much stress. I mean, because nursing school is stressful because of all the demands and how easily you can just not make it. Because of the, scoring requirements to stay in the schooling. So when I finished, it was so crazy to feel like the weight just off my shoulders, and I felt like I could breathe again, and all the symptoms went away.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're feeling like you're going crazy or you have bizarre symptoms and your doctors are like, we can't find anything, everything's normal, you're fine, it's on your head, it's not in your head, it's in your nervous system.
You're most likely in a state of fight or flight.
Yeah.
And I mean, the next thing from fight or flight is a freeze state. And I know when I was working with a naturopath, she was telling me, she's like, you are in fight or flight right now and you are headed for freeze. And if we don't interrupt that cycle now, it's not going to be good. And I'm really thankful, for people that are able to help in that regard and able to shed light on that, and also able to call out when they see, okay, I can tell you are in a stress out spot. And I know we've done that for each other too. At different instances, you've done it for me, I've done it for you, where it's like, I acknowledge what you're going through. Your system is so stressed out right now, and you got to dial it back. You got to slow down because this is not headed anywhere good.
Yeah. I just remembered another time that I was really stressed, but not to the extreme stress that I was in nursing school, was when I was in massage therapy school. And you probably remember this because we were friends then. Can you believe that? Anyways, that was back in 2012. So that's been a minute. But I remember it was just, I recently out of high school, I was homeschooled, so I was mostly on our farm and lived a very more laid back, very routine life. I would go out and walk the country roads and sing and pray and journal, a very relaxed life. Okay. So I go to massage therapy school, and this is the first time that I've really been in a school, like normal school structure, where your passing is dependent on your grades and your, performance and everything. And I remember that I started feeling like really like nerve pain, like, I don't know, it felt like there was a rash or something on my skin. And I had my mom look on it, and she's like, I can't really see anything. And it was just like anything touched, it was very uncomfortable. Well, a few days later, the rash showed up, and I had shingles. And that was bad. It was like...
that is absolutely a stress-induced illness.
And so I'm 19 years old. Actually, I don't think... Was I 19 yet? I don't know, but 18, 19 years old. And that's very young to have shingles. So my body was really feeling it, the stress. And so that told me, did I slow down? No, I have not. Until recently. But that I should have known then that my body is not very good of handling stress.
I don't think anybody's body is actually real good at handling stress.
Well, some can.
I think the difference is if you know how to handle it and you know how to incorporate certain things and bring calm to your nervous system when you're in a stressful situation, that's one thing. But I think just innately, if we're going by the world standards, none of us handle stress very well. It has to be an intentional thing.
Yeah.
So that's where we are bringing the intention to our routines, because we are really tired of the weird bodily sensations of actually mentally feeling stressed out. All of it. We're tired of it.
So with that, I'm going to ask you a question, because oftentimes with stress, people have a hard time setting boundaries.
Mm.
So, when did you first realize that no thank you could be a form of self-care instead of rejection? Because I know oftentimes it's people have a hard time saying no, and especially to the ones that are givers, they want to help and they just have a giving heart, and so it's hard for them to say no thank you. I can't take that on right now.
I think that's something that both you and I have dealt with in the sense of we're recovering people pleasers. And it is so tricky when you have been a people pleaser most of your life and you thrive off of that, and you look at, oh, if you say no thank you to something and somebody reacts negatively to it, you take it as a sign of rejection. And that's really, really hard. But the boundary is so important, because if you're constantly living to people please, you will stress yourself out into a mess. Been there, done that, have so many t-shirts for it. So for me, it's something that I have recognized for a while, but I think specifically this year probably is when I've started to recognize, okay, we have reached the apex. We have reached that pivotal point where it is not on me how people respond to my no thank you. And people are going to respond in all different regards. But especially in this season and there will be a time where we can say yes again to certain things that we're having to say no to right now.
Absolutely.
And there may be things that we just continue to say no to, and that's okay too. And I think it's recognizing that right now we're nourishing our bodies. It's like eating food, if you will, and nourishing adequately. Part of that nourishment for our nervous system is saying no thank you to certain things. Whether it is an event, a get together, and it's pretty easy to tell if it's something you should say no thank you to. Stop and think for a minute. Try to recognize how your body is responding to the thought of the upcoming, event, situation, whatever. And again, there will be a time where you can push a little bit of that no thank you, and you can say maybe, and it's truly a maybe, or you can say yes, I will do that, and you know that it's a little uncomfortable for you, but your body's actually in a more balanced out spot where you can do that. But I think especially for where I'm currently at, there has to be a lot of no thank you, and people may not understand that, and that's okay. That's okay. If you don't feel like you're ready to shed light on the why behind the no thank you, that's also okay. You don't owe them no is a complete explanation.
Complete sentence. Yeah, you tell me that. You have taught me that a lot, because I have a hard time saying no, especially in the realm of my work. Because being a business owner, there's more than just going to work and doing the job. You have everything else behind the scenes that we're taking care of. My mom and I being co-business owners together. And so there's a lot more that's involved that people may not understand that have never been in that position. And so I know I've often come to you and been like, I feel really bad about taking this day off or not scheduling another client. And you're just like, you don't owe them an explanation. And no is a complete sentence. It's like, I think of no ... Like, let's give the explanation. I also was thinking, like, when you were talking about how some of our listeners are probably going to be in different phases of their life. And so some may be like, you have no idea, you guys, your life is so easy, you shouldn't be stressed at all. And others can be like, they're in a phase of life that they're so stressed. Just wait until we get to that phase of life. But each person is different. Each person's situation is different. Each body is different. And so what I can handle, you may not be able to handle.
It's not one size
you
fits
can
all.
Handle, I'm not going to be able to handle. Yeah. And I think the awesome thing is that if we're relying on God, whichever phase of life we're in, even though at moments it's going to be harder than others, that He's going to give us the strength we need to make the changes we need to make, the strength to, even when we can't make changes because of the circumstances, whatever they may be, we may not be able to always say no or take time away because of demanding things in your life, but just knowing that we can rely on God to, His grace is sufficient for us in those times.
That reminds me when you were saying that, and I had to grab my phone and pull it up, and I just sent it to you this morning and also posted it to my personal Instagram stories. This is so good, and I think it goes along so well with what you were explaining. The enemy wants you to be focused on what you're facing. God wants you focused on who is leading you. One produces fear, the other produces peace. And so I think tying it into like what we're talking about, you know, if we're focused on what we're facing, that can absolutely be other people's response to our no's. And the enemy wants to come over with this condemning thing of like, oh, I need to over explain myself. I need to make it okay with the other person. And oh, you know, if I don't make sure that they're in agreement with me, XYZ. No. And especially when it comes to nurturing our nervous systems and leaning on God, He is where the peace lies, and He is where we can shift those routines. And if we're relying on our own understanding and what people think of us, and we're focused on all of what we're facing and how daunting it feels, that is where that's the opposer talking. And I think it's really important to recognize the difference.
Yeah, so that reminds me of the Bible verse, be still and know that I am God. So in situations that we have to say no, we have to put space between us and another situation, and we don't really feel like we want to explain why, we can be still and know that He's God. He sees the situation, and He can handle all the little things that overwhelm us. Also, like you talked about, being like when an event happens or somebody asks us to do something, to take account of our body's response to determine if it's going to support or negatively affect our nervous system. And I know for some people it may be hard to distinguish like what the body's response is at first, but I think the more you do it, the more aware you're going to be. Like, I know we talked about the eye twitching. Like, I did not have any eye twitching and I was doing good, but I go to work and I start giving massages and my eye starts twitching. I don't necessarily feel stressed as I'm interacting with my clients and, you know, giving them massages, but it is a form of stress that my body's feeling that maybe that day was too much for my nervous system. And so I already have these clients scheduled, so it makes it hard to then just be like, well, they're here, I have to, you know, do my job. So it makes it hard. So in that way, then we learn techniques to help regulate our nervous system. And I think that we're planning to talk more specifically about the things that we're going to be doing in our routine to help regulate our nervous system. One thing I did this morning, I know in a previous episode we talked about body dysmorphia and negative body image stuff. And so this morning when I was getting ready to take a shower, you know, getting ready for a shower, I start having these negative feelings about my body. And, you know, I could have dwelt on those negative feelings, but instead, there I am in the shower making up a song. I used to do this all the time, but I haven't done it in a long time because I think stress has just like taken away my creativity and my voice. And I just started singing and making up a song. Now, I don't remember the exact words, but it was a very, very good song. It was about, I was saying, I thank you, Lord, in the mountain tops and in the valleys low. I'll thank you in health. I'll thank you in sickness. You know, help me to thank you in wealth. Help me to thank you in poverty. Help me to thank you, you know, in different scenarios of my life. I was just like, help me to thank you. And then I started singing His goodness. And that really helped me. And so if you're a musical person, where are we going, Taylor?
Sorry, my battery is so low it's about to die, and I don't want to interrupt your super, super good thought.
I just see her moving. I'm just like, where are we going? So I think as you go on this journey, you will find things that will help break up the cycle. Mm-hmm. And so for me this morning, it was singing, even though I was dealing with all these negative feelings, and I could have given over to that temptation, but instead I decided to open my mouth and sing. And those feelings didn't necessarily just go away, but it helped refocus and tell my body, you are safe, God is good, and that is what we're going to focus on right now, is praising God for his goodness in spite of what I'm feeling.
And that's something that I'm very much like, exactly what you're saying is turning fear or negativity, the very, very real feelings I'm having, turning it into an element of surrender and praise. Mm-hmm. Because if you're busy praising God, you're not going to have time to doubt him.
Mm-hmm. But it doesn't necessarily mean that those feelings are automatically going to go away.
No.
You still may feel them.
Yes. But instead, you may have to actively fight them all day long.
Yes. So then that helps rewire the brain's pathways.
Yes.
Too. So it doesn't happen all at once. It is a journey.
Okay. So I really appreciated, what you shared. Even in a little bit of my distracted state, I was actively listening. And something that, struck me is when you were talking about making up songs in the shower. I also do that. Or I find myself making up songs like when I'm walking along outside. And that's something that I want to implement into my routine is not, if I'm going on a walk outside, which my plan is to implement that multiple times a day, because not only is it so good for your nervous system, it's really good for your hormone health. And I know that's something that both you and I struggle with. And you've found it super helpful within your own story to actively walk. And so instead of, having my earbuds in, I'm going to make a point to walk without the earbuds and just listen, because I think that's going to be very grounding. This morning, something that I did, well, one of the things is getting up at an earlier hour and watching the sunrise. I think that is really, really important for, waking up and for the circadian rhythm, and also in the evening, watching the sunset.
Yes.
And so I have a nice hill where I live that if you walk down it, there is a spring, like a mineral spring, whatever, and it has drinking water. People fill up their jugs all the time. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to start incorporating that into my routine. I'm going to walk down the hill to that active spring. I'm going to put going to fill my cup up with water, put my instant hydration in it, and then walk back up the hill. And also actively enjoy the sunrise, not have earbuds in. So I did that this morning for the first time. It was so lovely. The world was so peaceful and quiet because I was up at the crack of dawn. And I found myself on the way back up the hill. I was like, you know what? My shoes are kind of irritating my feet. And I had just sandals on. And so I pulled my shoes off and I just walked barefoot up the hill. It was so grounding and so calming and such a beautiful start to my day. And even though, trying to wake up at an earlier hour, sometimes it's like, I'm so gracious. I'm so grateful that I did that. I had my alarm set for 6. I happened to wake up at 5 and I was like, you know what? Why not? And it turned out to just be a very sweet start to the day and something that I know that if I implement it, I'm going to look forward to it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I have to take a sip of my tea.
Yeah. So you're going to find, our listeners are going to find things that nourish them.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't make all the changes in one day because then you're going to get overwhelmed. But I would make
another thing
2 to 3
too,
changes.
when you're trying to nourish your nervous system, if you do too many things at once,
Counterproductive.
it is counterproductive. It
Yeah.
frightens your nervous system, actually, if you're trying to do all these things at once. Even though they're good things, you have to take it slowly. Implement it a little bit at a time. It's what is that saying? Rome wasn't built in a day. Neither was paving new neural pathways, folks.
Yeah. I also want to say, like, regulating our nervous system, and this thought came to me because I have been contemplating it for a while about I'm a person that usually stuffs my emotions, and I know, Taylor, you have helped me be more expressive and not stuff my emotions so much. And the way I have noticed, like, our body responds to stuffed emotions, and when we're not expressing or speaking our mind when we need to. Now, obviously, there are times where it's better to be quiet and just pray. But then there are times where it is good that we express what we're feeling, our thoughts express. I remember I was getting a massage, I don't know, a few years back, and my massage therapist said he could tell in my body as he's working on me, especially around my neck, that I have been stuffing some stuff and I need to speak. And I know it was around that time that not long after I had went through my first miscarriage, and I know I had like pressed a lot of my emotions down as kind of like a protective, mechanism, because I still had to continue on with my life. I felt like I still had to go to work and show up, and I couldn't face those emotions. And so they became pressed down, and my body started responding in negative ways, such as constipation. You don't think that way, like stuffed emotions would cause constipation. But I have noticed that when I allow myself to express what I'm feeling, what I'm thinking, I allow myself to cry, because I'm not a big crier. I don't cry that often. But when I allow myself to feel those emotions, my bowel movements get better. And so I like to tell people, well, if you're having constipation, let's look at more than just your gut health. How is your emotional health? Are you holding on to things? Are you expressing? And I mean, if you can't express to other people, writing in a journal and praying is a good, helpful way. I like to do it poloing Taylor.
Which, again, I think it's so important because, you're talking about not suppressing it. And that can look different. So I think, in certain situations where you need to approach talking to somebody, there absolutely use tact whenever possible.
Right, absolutely. Kindness,
But
prayer.
I think having somebody that's a soft place to land, somebody that can be your sounding board, and someone that can
help recenter you,
help you navigate it. And for some, that may look like going to therapy. That's your safe place, your safe person to talk through things.
Or going to the gym.
Working out. And thinking about, just because I've noticed too, when I work out, it's like that serotonin boost, and it helps me there are times where I'm just like, I can't handle this right now. And I'm about to say some stuff. It's going to be probably counterproductive. So I'm going to go on a run, and I go on that run and I run my little heart out, and it helps tremendously. And then I'm able to return to whatever the situation is and try to navigate it in a more tactful way, if you will. But having a friend, somebody that you can talk to and you can be real with. I know not everybody has that, but if you can find that, it is so nourishing to the nervous system, because I know for you and I, we can come to each other when we're going through something and just lay it all out on the table. And we don't have to try to put it in any sort of a certain way. We can show up and just be like, okay, this is what I'm going through. this is hard. And if it's a situation where we want, help with it, be like, what is your take on this? Or we can show up and be like, I just need to vent for a minute. Is that okay? And just kind of get it all out. And I love that about our friendship so much. It has been so healing in so many ways. So y'all should try it. If you know of somebody that you can go back and forth with and they fill your cup and you fill their cup, like it's a beautiful, incredible, nourishing way to help your nervous system.
Absolutely.
Another thing that I was going to say that I noticed within my own body. So I'm pretty in tune with my body, but I'm trying to become more in tune in the way of where am I tensing up? Because you were talking about like when you stepped your emotions, it was coming out in your neck and shoulders. Your therapist noticed that. So something interesting that I actually noticed today, something I'm trying to incorporate in my morning routine is mindfully eating my food. Normally I'm on my phone. I'm eating really, really fast. My husband used to have a job.
Faster than I do.
My husband used to have a job where when we stopped for lunch, because I would often go with him out on the job, we didn't have much time. And we just had to get it in and off we would fly again. And so I got in this habit of just consuming my food at an incredibly fast rate, which is also not very good for your system. And so I'm trying to eat my food as much as possible distraction free. And so this morning I was doing that. I did have my Bible out in front of me and I was eating my food and reading some of my Bible. So I guess it was a little bit of distraction, but it was a positive thing. And I was just noticing as I was eating, I was tensing up. Like inside, I noticed there was a tenseness happening. And when I just let myself relax, as I was like eating, I felt my insides relax. I was like, oh, like I'm in a constant state of my insides are tensing and it's creating I can feel where that gut point, and especially if you're consuming food and you're in a spot of just like flexing constantly on the inside, that's not going to be very positive for things either. So it's interesting to just gently acknowledge what's going on in your body or to be able to see it in a gentle way. And just trying to let it go.
Yeah.
What do you think a regulated life feels like, not just looks like? Because I know that, like, again, social media, they put on this aesthetic of what a regulated nervous system looks like, whatever. But what do you think? What do you think it feels like?
I feel like you are able to have a good night's rest where you feel refreshed and rested in the morning. Mm-hmm. And you're able to enjoy your meals and not feel stressed around meals. Mm-hmm. You enjoy company of others and are able to laugh and talk freely and not feel judged and held back. And you find joy in the little things in life as well as the big things. And you just see life as full of possibilities instead of what now or what's going to go wrong next. And just feeling like full of life, like embracing every day with all its possibilities and knowing that God will take care of everything for us.
I know for myself, something that I have done and looked back at is one of my grandmothers and how she lived her life and how she didn't make apologies for things like the state of her home. Her door was always open to people. And that is something that I think for a long time is a stressor for people. If somebody's just going to drop in and their house is not in perfect order and whatever. And so that's something that I gleaned from my grandma that I really appreciated, was she didn't make apologies for her home. And that was not a point of stress. It's like, if you didn't appreciate her home and the fact that it was a lived-in home, there's the door, help yourself out the door, type of thing. And I've had a lot of friendships in the past. Again, even though it's been a hard 3 years, I've had some really good friendships in the past 3 years that have nurtured also that, where we can be in each other's lives. Our homes don't have to be perfect. And that has been a huge exhale for me. And I want to live more like that. And I know the big thing right now is having a 90s summer. It's all out there, having a 90s summer. And I think a lot of people that are striving to have a 90s summer, they never lived in the 90s. I've lived in the 90s. I'm a millennial. I've lived in the 90s, and I remember what it felt like. And honestly, y'all are onto something. I can say that much. It was a simpler time, and I miss that. Yeah. And I think that's part of, where I'm wanting to nourish my routine. I want to go back to simpler times where, and I know both of us are in that zone of, we want to put our phones down more.
Yeah.
We want to be present more.
I liked growing up without internet and social media.
Well, and that was the thing. Like, I grew up, like, we were going into that whole social media phase of things at one point in my life, like when I was teenager, preteen, whatever.
Yeah, the early starts of Facebook and MySpace.
Yeah, I loved it, and I wanted to be a part of it, and I loved being on the computer. But my mom had kind of a rule of 1 hour a day.
Oh, really?
Well, yeah, it was 1 hour a day. Was it for you too?
Yes.
Yeah, 1 hour a day, and occasionally we could earn a little extra time on the computer. We had to do some extra chores or extra things, and we could earn a little extra time or whatever. But I spent a day, I was in a very carefree state. We lived out in the country. I would wander around. I would pretend I was on the Appalachian Trail, or that I was I would make up these grand stories in my mind. I'd talk out loud, and I would just, I had
very similar growing up, didn't we?
Boy. I rode my bicycle. I was outside a lot, and which is very regulating for the nervous system. Mm-hmm. I enjoyed my food whenever we would sit down. I appreciated my meals. I wasn't worried about caloric intake,
Or now it's going to make you gain 10 pounds.
I would show up to the table and be like, oh my goodness, it's my favorite. And I would just sit down and I would enjoy it. I was the type of kid that I would be up late reading a good book, because it was simply that. It was a good book. Yep. And I was a voracious reader, ferocious, however you say that.
Me too.
And then because of this, I fell out of it. Yeah. And so I look back at when I was a child and a lot of the things that I didn't have, didn't consume, and how much better my life was for that. And
so we're going backwards in that.
We're going backwards in order to go forwards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if listeners remembered only one thing from today's episode, our conversation today, what would you hope it would be?
I was actually getting ready to pose the same question to you, so let's discuss that. I think if listeners could remember one thing from today's conversation, it would be that whether or not you're in tune to your body still responds to stress. And if you stop, if you just pause, you will be able to notice internal and exterior ways that your body is responding to that. And I would say, don't just take notice of it. Start to try to implement things within your life that will help to nurture a more balanced nervous system. And it's going to take time. It's going to take effort. But nervous system is so, so important. The other thing, because we need two things. There is power in no. Don't be afraid to say no. No is a complete sentence. Don't just remember that, act upon that. And when I say that, it doesn't have to be a nasty no to somebody, but if you are feeling like you're in a state of you can't handle this, or you're physically just, it's stressing you out beyond whatever, and you can just tell it's not what's best for your nervous system. And if you are in a place to say no, just say no. Just say, you know what? Not this time. Thank you. That's it. And if they press you further, you can just say, you know what? I'm just not feeling up for it. You don't have to expound beyond that. And it's true. You're not feeling up for it.
And I think, like, what I'm thinking of is some people might say, well, if you start saying no, you might say no to everything and have a closed off life. And in the beginning, it might feel like that, but as you heal your nervous system, you'll then be able to open up more things and say yes to more things that where you could not handle before, because now your nervous system is more regulated, and you also know the signs of when your body is telling you we need to back off. And so then you can take that time and then come back with a fuller cup and then be able to say yes and know the difference between when you should say no and when you should say yes.
Absolutely. I would say something that struck my brain is get curious about your capacity levels.
Yeah.
And just notice along the way and adjust as you need to. And like you said, it might be in the beginning, you don't have a lot of capacity for much. Don't feel ashamed for that. Actually look at yourself in that empathetic way of, okay, I just need a little more nurturing right now. And right now that means saying no to a lot of things. And that's okay. And there will come a day when I can say no to less things. But right now, I'm just not at that point, and that's okay. There was something else that you said that I wanted to touch on, but I'm a little tired because of the 5 a.m. wake up. We're going to have to nourish our nervous system this afternoon. Yes, we are. But no, I really have appreciated the conversation that we've had within this podcast and beyond it, just for ourselves. And I hope that it's helpful for other people. And I will say, we didn't get into like all of our routines. We're still in the midst of tweaking those routines and figuring out what is best for that. But once we have kind of our routines down and what has actually begun to work for us, and we've got a solidified routine for us, we're going to share that with you guys in a really fun way. We've already begun the conversation between ourselves as to what that's going to look like for a podcast. So,
yes. So what are you thankful for?
I was just going to ask you that. I'm really grateful for joy. I'm really grateful for the days, because a lot of days it can feel like I'm choosing joy, right? I've had a lot of moments where it's felt like that, but I think very recently I have begun to actually feel joy as well as choosing it. And that is such a beautiful thing. Yes. What are you grateful for?
I am thankful for these conversations. I am not one who likes small talk. I like deep conversations, and recording these episodes it's just nourishing, and I just love it so much. So I'm thankful to be here, and I'm thankful that we have this opportunity to share with others how God is working in our lives.
I love that. And I ditto that.
Okay.
Well,
with that,
until next time, may you find joy in the material that God gave you.
Amen.
We'll see you next time.
Yeah.